This is Talking Bullish, the new Bradford Bulls fan podcast.
With your hosts, Laura Micklefield
and Alan Raisin. This week we're looking back at a disappointing trip to York before previewing the visit of the Widnes Vikings on Sunday.
Welcome to episode 2. Thanks to everyone who listened to the first show. I know we had quite a few people comment and a few listens, so that's always a positive, especially when you're trying something new. So a big thank you to everyone, and hopefully might get some more listeners this week. So starting with York, brilliant atmosphere really, lots of flags, balloons, inflatables, anything you can think of being passed around the crowd, packed out stand, all the makings of a brilliant semi-final.
Yeah, I thought the Bulls started brightly actually.
Yeah, 6 minutes in, Hooley scores first, straight through the defence, and obviously a lot for the away fans to be shouting about, and I think we were kind of getting the better of York in those first few minutes or so.
So after, a good start, then we also got a try disallowed. The ref said it was held up. I know in the post-match press conference, Brian Noble said he thought it was fine and nothing wrong with it. So
I think this is one of the things I'm talking about with the whole, things not going our way. As soon as something happens like that, you tend to find a switch in momentum, and I think that did happen. I think things started going a little bit more York's way. Maybe York fans wouldn't agree, but it just seems to be things didn't click, and I think that's one of the things, because if that had been given as a try, could have gone a different way. We'd have got the momentum, had us tails up, gone on for a different match, but obviously swings and roundabouts in games like things such as this and things like that do kind of have an impact and switch the game momentum the other way, which I think it did kind of go more for York then. They seem to have then a good few goals on our line. Lots of near misses for them, I suppose the York fans would be thinking at that point, are we going to get a try? They got one disallowed for obstruction. I think there were another one for a forward pass, but in the end, I think pressure tells, and there was 3 set restarts on the Bradford line, and they got through. And I think 10-4 at half time, I think most fans were we're still in this, we've got a good shot at it, but just the way things were going, I had a feeling it might not go our way.
Yeah, because if we had gone in at 6-4, it would have been, again, a different game perhaps. But, they broke through twice in quick succession, really, and, that 10-4 scoreline, although not insurmountable, was obviously, an indication that things weren't going our way. Yeah,
and I think sometimes even the missed conversions, it can't... Again, it's one of those things. You have good days, you have bad days. I know there's sometimes you miss every conversion going, and then another match you'll kick everyone. But the 2 points do make differences when they add up. It could again have been a bit closer, but it's just one of those things. And it's not like we came back out after half time and they weren't trying. Obviously, there's a lot of effort there, and I think especially one of the standout things to me was Fulton chasing back after the kick outrunning the winger of York to collect that. If that's not effort, I don't know what is, seeing as he's a back row. But just wasn't to be. Just, I don't know, things like throwing the ball into touch.
Yeah, threw it into touch a couple of times, or maybe even 3, was it? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, and it's things like this with matches such as that. You're not going to get away with things like that at this level. It's just a matter of when it's a do or die match. Unfortunately, teams like York are going to capitalise when you make the mistakes. I think one of the standout things for the tries would be the Kieran Gill try off the kick from Guy Armitage. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching that back. I've not seen it on the highlights yet, but it was kind of hard to see from the angle because we were right down the other end of the pitch. But it did look quite the unique try. So that could be maybe one for try of the week, even if a consolation prize for not getting to Wembley. But
so I did watch that back in the highlights, and yes, it was as good as we thought it was. So
brilliant.
Well done Armitage and Gill, great stuff. So, and then midway through the second half, it got all the way to 22-8 to York, and really then we thought the game was over, and then York got a player sent to the sin bin for 10 minutes, and could that have been a ray of light? But it wasn't again to be.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a consolation try, didn't we? Whilst I think he was still off the pitch, McShane, at that point for the professional foul. But it's, again, just one of those things. It's not. It wasn't the best performance, but there was effort there. Just not enough time towards the end. Obviously, we got the last try of the game as the hooter was sounding, but missed conversions, I suppose, make it a bit wider gap than it could have been. It could have ended like 24-20 if we'd have got us kicks, I think. 28-24, sorry. And
then in the post-match interview, Brian Noble, obviously very disappointed. You could see that in his face. He said, the team were underperformed and definitely not like us to concede 28 points. But you were able to take advantage of our little mistakes. I think that's pretty fair, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Just a bad day at the office. I think obviously we need to give the players a break. You could tell there was effort there. You could tell they were trying. It's just you have an off day, and I think that's what it was. It wasn't an off day in the sense of we were terrible and folded. I think we still put a lot of effort in. It's just it wasn't to be on the day. It doesn't mean the end of the season. I think a lot of people think it does, but it'd been nice to have a trip to Wembley, but I suppose saves me a bit of money. So I think of the positives that way. It's a shame, but this is how rugby league goes.
And then you wanted to talk about the fan reaction then, so you saw a lot on Twitter, was it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed is as soon as obviously the match was over, lots of comments have been like there's nothing to play for anymore, and kind of people berating the players, and even I think family members of players getting involved, chatting back to people on social media, trying to kind of defend the players and such. And I just think it's harsh. Do you know what I mean? It's their job at the end of the day. You could tell they played with passion. You could tell that they tried. Like, sometimes things don't go your way. Sometimes the other team is better. And I can imagine, obviously, most people out there will have jobs, and if they have an off day, I'm sure they won't get people on social media telling them how rubbish they've been.
Yeah.
We've come off of like 5 or 6 wins, and then to have one loss, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, I know when Wembley's on the line, it feels like it, but at the end of the day, we've still got a strong team that performs strong. I think the fans that tend to have such the negative comments are the ones that want to say something on social media, I think, and the ones that kind of appreciate what the players did do don't really have much to say. Yeah, so one of the other things I'm going to mention is, obviously we talked last week about squad selection, and I think I was quite... Well, I suppose I expected the squad selection. We knew Donaldson and Lawrence, I said, if they were fit, would probably be back in, which they were. It's just... Did I feel that was right on my opinion? Yes, I think that it's good to have your captain back, and I think Donaldson's an experienced, strong player who's played in big matches, so I totally understand why we went for that selection. On the other side of the coin argument, I suppose, is Mason getting dropped. Seems harsh. He did play really well in the previous match, made a lot of metres forward. It's a tough one, really. I suppose the people who missed out would be disappointed that they didn't make the squad this week, but I understand why he selected who he did. I just as a fan, sometimes get a bit frustrated about the style of play. I felt like when we were kind of under the cosh and we didn't have long left and we could have got back into the game, we didn't take advantage of like the strong edges that we've got. You could see that York have a wide pitch. You could see that when they spread the ball, they cut up our defence. Even if you look at the try scorers from our side of things, it was on the edges again. It wasn't down the middle. I feel like we lost the forward battle, but yet we seem to keep going with that tactic. The game plan of going up the middle, I do think, like with the loss of Pele and the fact that Sker is injured, we just we don't have that firepower down the middle. So as much as we wanted to, or it seemed like we wanted to play a forward game, I just don't think that was the way to go. I think the strongest thing was to go down the edges. I think the personnel we didn't have on the field dramatically affected that.
So again, from the post-match interviews, Brian Noble said that he's hoping that Sker might be back next week.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. I think we're really missing him. We've got more depth than ever before, like we said, and I know when we were speaking about the battling match, saying we've got a lot of kind of headaches with selections if everybody is fit. But one of those that will always get in is Sker, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we have really missed him. I think he does make a massive impact, and I tend to think if he was playing that match, not that one person can change a game, but a bit of impact off the bench and a bit of go forward can sometimes change the game, and the backs can work off of that. So it'd be brilliant to see Eben back, and I think a really really good time to get him back when you've had a tough match and you're following it up with a game against Widnes.
Well, shall we move on now then to the game at Widnes? Against Widnes, not at Widnes. So, yeah, you are, I think, pessimistic about this one, aren't you?
I tend to be pessimistic about every match, don't I, really? No, I think it's that Widnes just seems to be a bogey side for us. I know we have a few of those, but Widnes especially, it just seems to be that we always struggle, no matter even if the form's good or bad, or it just seems that Widnes is one of those sides that we really struggle to beat. I mean, I've looked at previous matches against Widnes. I think the last, is it 4 matches they've won. I think last time we've beaten them in league matches is 2023, and only by 2 points. It's always a tough battle, and it always seems to be that it goes their way. So I would love to be proved wrong and hope that we would get the win.
Well, I was looking at their form, and I have to say I'm more optimistic than you. So in their last 5 games, they've only won 1, and that was away at Hunslet. It's been so the last 5 were loss, win, loss, draw, loss. So
yeah, I can see from their previous matches, it's kind of similar to, I suppose, the form of who they've played as well as to think about. Obviously, we had a bigger win against Oldham, and they had a draw, but there were some personnel out for Oldham that day, so you could, again, being the pessimist that I am, say that it was a weaker squad. They lost to Barrow, but so did we. Featherstone have seemed to come into their own, which I think was the last match that they played, so understandable that they could obviously lose that one. And they lost to York, as did we. So, yeah, it should be a good one. I'm just hoping it's not a matter of the squad are so tired from this week and them having a week off that gives them an advantage.
Well, maybe a week's enough to get rested. I mean, they are used to that schedule, aren't they? So let's hope
it sometimes can go the other way. Sometimes if you've had a week off and you've not had that kind of match day experience, you can be a bit more out of it, and they can use that as an excuse as well. But it'll all depend on the day. Like any rugby league match, anyone can win, and especially in the Championship, that's true. I think you go into every match thinking that anyone can win. I don't think there's ever a match I go into, especially this season, where I think, we're going to win this one. Even being the pessimist that I am, obviously you do hope and expect wins from a lot of the teams, but it is just such a close competition and such a competitive one that anything can happen.
Indeed it can, but let's hope that this week's result doesn't cast too long a shadow on it for the players.
Yeah, fingers crossed, back to winning ways, hopefully. And a bit more optimism from the fans, hopefully. I hope these fans who are saying that we'll never get a 3,000 crowd again in the minority, and the majority of fans do still turn up and support the players.
Yeah, definitely.
So we thought, obviously, with the podcast, doing kind of review of the previous matches and a preview of the matches ahead and some discussion about squads and such like that, thought we'd try and add little kind of anecdotes or little stories from both of us about rugby league in general and our kind of journey with it. For me, I think I mentioned on the last podcast that I've kind of been a fan since childhood. It was quite a funny story for me, to be fair, because I became a fan of rugby league through my dad, who originally was a huge Castleford Tigers fan, even though we both lived in Leeds, and I've been born and raised in Leeds. And it was in the time of Bullmania when he said to me, you can pick anyone to support as long as it isn't Leeds Rhinos. So me being me, I picked Bradford Bulls and been a fan ever since, through the ups and downs, right through to liquidations, administrations, down to League One, back up to Championship. Still not seen them obviously back in Super League, but yeah, I'll stick with them, and I always will. For Alan, it's a different story. Like we said last week, he's relatively new to the rugby league scene. So we're hoping that he can tell us a bit about his first experience at a rugby league match.
Well, I can, and you might not like the answer, I have to say, because my first rugby league match that I went to was a Leeds Rhinos match.
Oh.
Yeah, but it wasn't really my fault.
On a Bradford Bulls podcast.
I know. Don't hate on me. It was just because my daughter's school were given some promotional tickets for a game. So
we'll let you off.
Yeah, we went along, we enjoyed it. I guess it was a Friday night match. I remember parking being horrendous around Headingley, but
yeah.
That's that. But then, yeah, it was a couple of years ago, or maybe maybe 3. Laura here invited me over to a Bradford Bulls match, and haven't looked back.
Yeah, that's sort of converting all the people to Bradford Bulls. I think I like to show people rugby league anyway who've not really seen it before, and I feel like if you do give it a chance and give it a watch, to me, I think it's obviously the most enjoyable sport, but for a lot of people who haven't even heard of it, I think once you give it a go, like you were saying, a fan of American football originally, kind of you can see similarities with it, but you actually do prefer to watch a game of rugby league now.
Yeah, I would say that, yes. And it is interesting to see the similarities and differences, as you say. So we were talking on Sunday about how shepherding isn't allowed in rugby league, but like literally in the NFL, that is a legitimate play technique to for someone to run in front of the ball carrier and tackle the person who's coming in. So that's quite funny. But they're obviously just different games, different rules, and you don't have to pick one. You can like both. But,
I think there's a lot of fans that are obviously in multi-sport. It's just with rugby league tends to be kind of a northern sport, or seen as a northern sport, so I feel a sense of achievement in making you a Bradford Bulls fan, seeing as you're from the south of England, Alan, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and my family still don't really know what rugby league is. They're them down south.
Yeah, well, that's we'll try and change that if they come up next time. Hopefully we can get them to a Bradford Bulls game and get even more Bradford Bulls fans on board.
Sounds good. Okay, so that's the end of another episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks once again, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week, and feel free to leave any comments, give us some things to talk about if you like, if you prefer to kind of ask us some questions or want us to talk about anything in particular rather than just the reviews and the previews. Yeah, drop a comment, give us a like on X or on Blue Sky or on Instagram, and also give our podcast a listen, hopefully on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And maybe more coming soon as well. So you've been listening to Talking Bullish, the Bradford Bulls fan podcast.
Thank you. See you again next week.
See you next week. Bye.